I'm Tavis Smiley. Delighted to have you on with us today, hanging out with us today in this hour. What an amazing first hour that was. Just rarefied air to be talking to not one, two, three, but four members of Congress the day after Kevin McCarthy is ousted as a speaker. We thank once again Adam Schiff and Sheila Jackson Lee, Benny Thompson, Maxine Waters. If you missed any part of the first hour today, just go to our TavisSmileyShow.com site. That's the TavisSmileyShow.com, and check out the podcast of that conversation. It's one worth hearing if you missed it, featuring all four heavyweight members of Congress in that first hour. In this hour, two conversations on the B side of this hour. We'll talk with lawyer and activist Kat Calvin about her latest book, American Identity in Crisis, Notes from an Accidental Activist. Look forward to that dialogue on the B side of this hour. She'll join us live here in studio in Los Angeles. But I'm delighted now, honored, humbled, in fact, to be in conversation with American fashion designer extraordinaire Tracy Reese. Reese has outfitted everybody from First Lady Michelle Obama to Sarah Jessica Parker, from Oprah to Tracy Ellis Ross, and many, many more notables. She joins us now to talk about the resurgence of Detroit, Motown, the Big D, where she relocated her business after leaving New York City. I hope we'll also talk about her design philosophy rooted in a commitment to showcasing the beauty in women of all shapes, sizes, and colors. What a great delight. What an honor to have Tracy Reese on this program. Tracy, how are you today?
I'm great. The delight and honor is all mine.
Oh, no.
I'm on with Tavis Smiley.
No. The delight and honor is all mine. I'm on with Tracy Reese. It's Tracy and Tavis, and I'm happy about it. Let me just start, if I can, at the risk of embarrassing you. Let me just start by saying how I adore you, how I celebrate you. It is such a beautiful thing to see a sister do what you're doing, to do it in the way that you are doing it, to see other black women and other women, period, who happen not to be black, just embracing your fashion styles. It's an amazing thing. As we say around here, we're rooting for everybody black. And I just am so thrilled at the success that you are having. And I just want to start by saying congratulations to you.
Thank you for that. And, it takes a village, and it takes a strong family, and so many amazing friends and collaborators, to make this happen.
Yeah. What happens when people like Michelle Obama and Oprah put on your clothes? Like, what happens inside the company when people see them donning your fashions?
Oh, it's huge. And I think, it's a huge boost for morale. It gives, credence to everything we're working hard to do and achieve every day. And, it's you feel like you sort of made it. But to be honest, we feel equally proud when we see women whose names we don't know, wearing our clothes, people who've, parted with our hard-earned dollars to buy our clothes. And we're just honored to dress everyone.
Yeah. How did fashion become your muse? How did fashion become your thing, Tracy Reese?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit for that to my mom and to my grandmother. My mom was a native Detroiter, and she was super curvy, so she always sewed clothes for herself. Mm-hmm. And she sewed clothes for me and my sisters. I have two sisters, Leslie and Erin, one younger, one older. And she took great pride in that, and she would take me fabric shopping and shopping for patterns and notions and just putting things together. It was always so exciting, the whole creative process. And she taught me to sew. So I started sewing when I was 8 years old. Mm. And, I always loved to sketch and to draw. And she would have me sketch out things that she was planning to make for herself and things that I was planning to make for me. And one thing sort of led to another, and I discovered fashion.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your design philosophy. I referenced it earlier. To my mind, at least, it's rooted in this commitment you have to showcasing beauty in women of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Not every fashion designer has that as an edict. It is yours, but why is it yours? How did it become yours?
Part of it is being a woman and not being what, some people think is a traditional shape. Mm-hmm. But I think women designers approach clothing design a bit differently than perhaps men who are designing for women, because we are the customer, so what it's like to wear the clothes, why you need the clothes and what service they perform in your life. And For me, it's like I want to design clothes that women look and feel good in. I want them to get compliments. So it's not just a trend or an experiment or even an artistic mission. Because a lot of designers who are very forward thinking, they're not as focused on the customer as they are on creating something new and different that perhaps you haven't seen before, which is exciting and it's inspiring, but sometimes it's not really wearable. And I want people to wear our clothes, for every occasion in their life.
We are in dialogue with American fashion designer Tracy Reese. What a delight, what an honor to have this opportunity. We'll continue when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450 mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SAHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience, temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking. By you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Let's get back to more of Tracy Reese right now on Tavis Smiley. Tracy, you mentioned, I love your phrase, super curvy. How hard do black women, women of color writ large for that matter, have to work? How hard do they have to look to find stuff for them when they are super curvy, as you put it?
That's a challenge, and most women aren't the same size at the top and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given. We're not, cookie cutter little robots. We're like real people, and we have our history and our family genes and all of that. So each one of us is unique, and we should celebrate that instead of worrying about, trying to fit a mold.
Yeah. Speaking of molds, you do not fit a mold. You use every time I see your stuff, there are always these daring colors and these sort of unique prints, and I want to talk about that. How did that become your thing? So much color and the unique way you offer us these prints to view.
I think it's it's interesting. I've always loved strong, beautiful color, and I remember my mom saying to me, when I was young, she was like, "If you're, feeling a little sad, wear red because it'll lift your spirit." And when people see you wearing beautiful colors, they're drawn to you, and colors flatter people. And I won't lie, I wear a fair amount of black, as a lot of designers do, but I love color, and I love how color complements different skin types. And then with the prints and patterns, this is an opportunity to express ourselves in a way that is 100% uniquely ours. And we create a lot of prints right here in our office in Detroit based on inspiration and whatever ideas we have for the season. And that's a lot of fun to do. And it's, a place where we can, stamp our style, on a piece of fabric and make it uniquely ours.
I've been honored to talk to a few designers in my career, and it occurs to me that I don't think I've ever asked this question, and your comment about it a moment ago leads me to ask, why do so many designers wear so much black?
You know what? Black is such a universal color, It's slenderizing. It always looks professional. You can mix and match different black pieces together and create outfits and looks. So it's a great foundation color for any wardrobe, but it can't be the only color.
Yeah, I get you. Would I be offending you, or would I be wrong or something else if I said that when I see your fashions worn by modern women, the clothing always looks feminine to me, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, I celebrate it, but it seems to me that you make feminine clothing for women, and certainly in the moment that we live now, that's not the case for every designer.
Right, and it's just something that I love to do. I love dressmaker details. I love more feminine silhouettes and flourishes, and it's definitely, I consider it a compliment. That's sort of my lane, and I like. Also, though, where masculine meets feminine, the two things together are always really interesting and complementary. So, hopefully I'm providing, the yin for someone else's yang, or, they might find it all in our collection.
Yeah. You mentioned Detroit. I mentioned Detroit. I want to talk about Detroit because I thought, again, it's a beautiful thing when you made this move to Detroit. Detroit is having a bit of a resurgence, and that's a beautiful thing. But you boldly, move your business there, and you're doing your thing. Tell me about why you chose to make that decision. I want to talk about how things are going in that regard.
Lots of reasons. When I started this brand, Hope for Flowers, in 2019, before the pandemic, and I really wanted to focus on working as responsibly as possible, because fashion's footprint on the planet is massive, and it's dirty, and there's a lot of abuses, and we need to be more intelligent and more intentional in how we're designing and how we are marketing our products to the public. And as part of starting this business, I knew I wanted to also have a social mission. So, Hope for Flowers isn't just a clothing brand. We are part of an ecosystem here in Detroit, and we have educational programming for young people here in the city who go to Detroit public schools. So we do art enrichment. And, I chose Detroit because it's my hometown, but also because I knew I could make a difference here. And I had a great childhood growing up here, tons of art classes in public school and music classes and all the things that really help to round out, your character and help you, understand who you are as a person and what you can bring to, to your life and to your world. And children are missing that terribly here now, because since the bankruptcy, it's been a long, hard road to get the arts restored in public schools. Mm-hmm. So, it breaks my heart that kids don't have the same opportunities that I had growing up here. So I wanted to be a part of offering opportunities. So we teach art enrichment to 7 to 12-year-olds here on Saturdays, and we spotlight little-known sometimes artists of color, and we talk about their techniques and teach those techniques to the children, but we also talk about sustainability, and we focus on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a foundation to that teaching, because I think it's extremely important that we all have access to this information, that we all have agency to, control some parts of our lives and to step off of this, wasteful cycle of living that we're in. Mm-hmm. We waste clothing. Americans throw away 70% of their clothing. How frightening is that? Mm. Everything that's marketed to us almost is throw away. Use a little bit, throw it away, and buy some more. Mm-hmm. Because, that's just the consciousness of our society. But I want to talk about having things that you love and taking care of them. We used to save money. We used to put things in the layaway and save up for things that we really wanted that had value. And our families held on to the things that were good, and we wore hand-me-downs, and we had clothes from family friends that we wore and passed on to our cousins, and they came back to the younger sister. Mm-hmm. There was this whole circle of a community of sharing and taking care of things that were good. We took care of our shoes. A lot of people don't even know how to take care of their shoes anymore, and you think you have to ditch everything and get some more. So we want to talk about taking care of what we have, and we want to also talk about respect for all of the creative people and skilled craft people that are creating these things. And, with so much production being offshore, it's all out of sight, out of mind. So if you're buying, a $39.99 dress at a big box store or at a fast fashion retailer, you're not thinking about the person at the end of that supply chain who probably made 50 cents for sewing that dress. And 80% of the people who sew clothing are women, and 80% of those women are women of color. So we cannot be a part of a system that keeps our sisters in slavery.
When we think, I want to just say, wow, first of all, when we think of fashion, we never think of all the stuff you just laid out. There's a whole consciousness, of course, to what you do. Where did that come from? You laid it out beautifully. And again, you've given us all things to think about when we think about that next dress or that next suit or whatever it is that we're buying and adding to our closets. But where did this level of consciousness for you come from?
I had some courses, actually. I took a crash course in sustainable design as part of Council of Fashion Designers of America workshop series that I did for 9 months, and I learned about textiles from a sustainable perspective. I learned about, fair labor and more about human rights, and I'm a part of organizations that support, I sit on the board of Nest, which supports handcrafters all around the world and people who produce beautiful items, but they need our support, they need our advocacy. I just joined the board of Remake Our World, which fights for fair labor rights for garment workers all over the world. So, these are things that are important to me, and it's, the more you learn, the more you know that you have to approach your work in a much more thoughtful and intentional and careful way. And we need to share this message with our communities so that we can all be very aware of what our choices mean. Yeah. And being able to spread that message here in Detroit was extremely important to me, because I feel like sustainability can be thought of as an elitist concept, but we're here in the city, and it's all of our responsibility to work to save this planet. I'm
asking this question broadly, generically, unapologetically, so just know that. When I asked for your critique, your assessment of black folk in fashion in this contemporary moment, fashion design, you think what?
Oh, wow, there's an explosion of creativity and newness and new names and opportunity. It's been really a great few years, actually, best ever in my lifetime for Black talent to be recognized and to have opportunities to show, their craft and what they can do.
I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that answer would be forthcoming, but it's always good to hear from someone as established as yourself that we're at least moving in the right direction in this particular arena, in this particular field. Let me ask you about Detroit. We've talked about it, but I want to get more directly into it. Tell me what you are seeing in Detroit. I'm talking now about the renaissance, the resurgence of Motown. What are you seeing around you?
Well, I was just downtown for dinner last night. Downtown was a ghost town 10 years ago. There was like tumbleweed rolling down the streets and, just shuttered doors and, just pitiful. But, another reason that I decided to come home is, there was just sort of an island of whiteness that downtown had become. I'd walk into a restaurant and I'd be the only black person there. And I'm thinking, I'm in an 80% black city, yet people are turning around to see who this is coming in because there are no other black people in this restaurant. So there's a lot of bright, shiny new things happening, but I'm desperate to make sure that Detroiters, this 80% black population, that we're sharing in these new ideas and these new initiatives and this rebirth, because it's still somewhat a segregated city. I had dinner at the athletic club and I thought it was 1960, all black servers and all white customers. And it was, I thought I'd stepped way back in time. So it's also about bridging some of those gaps, because then I would talk to my family and they're like, oh, we didn't know that restaurant opened. And it's like, okay, we all have to play a role in this, it can't just be, the new imported people who are, have bright new ideas and they have found ways to get those ideas funded that are enjoying, the spoils of the new Detroit. We all have to come together and bring the city back as a community.
Yep. Finally, here is there any qualitative difference between doing what you do in Detroit versus doing it as you did for a couple of decades in New York City?
I feel like I can just make a bigger difference here. Training Detroiters how to do this work. They're working alongside me and learning all facets of the business, from production to design to marketing. I just feel like there's more opportunity for me to really make a difference. And in Detroit, in New York, you're a little fish in a very, very, very big pond. And in Detroit, there are open arms and open ears and just tons of opportunity and lots of people to collaborate with who deserve to be seen.
Yeah. Are you finding that there are young people in Detroit who are turned on by the potential of being in the fashion design industry?
Oh, definitely. We have a black HBC here that we actually visited yesterday, Pensacola University. And, they have an incredible footwear design program, and, they attract students from all over the country to design footwear, and that's right here in the city. And there's, the College for Creative Study that has an incredible fashion program as well. So this is, New York doesn't have to be the center of the universe for all things. New York is fabulous, and I love it.
Yeah, tell that, hey Tracy, tell that to a New Yorker, Tracy.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm not putting New York down at all, but it's a new day, and we can do what we do from many different spots on the planet. So I've chosen Detroit,
and you've chosen well. And what a great joy, a joy sublime. In fact, it has been to have been in conversation with you, but even more joyful to know that you were in Detroit and helping it to experience the resurgence that it is experiencing, and not just for our white brothers and sisters, but for folk who look just like you and me. Tracy Reese, again, what an honor to have had a chance to speak with you. All the best to you in the coming months and years, and I hope to do it again somewhere down the road.
I would love that, Tavis Smiley. Thank you for selecting me for this half hour of conversation, and I'm super proud to have been able to be on your show.
And I thank Tracy Reese for selecting Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We thank you for sharing a part of your Wednesday with us. It's October 4th. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Well, coming up this afternoon, there will be a nationwide test of the emergency alert system. FEMA and the FCC are running the test to make sure the alert system is running smoothly in case Americans are threatened by natural disasters, terrorism, or other emergencies. The jolting sound should start hitting phones around 2:20 p.m. That's Eastern Time, and the test window, it'll run for about 30 minutes. In Massachusetts, Springfield is helping a black church which was destroyed by an arsonist. $500,000 is being earmarked from the city's share of the American Rescue Plan Act towards the rebuilding of the MLK Community Presbyterian Church near American International College. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Got a SIG alert in Pomona now, the 10 westbound at Fairplex Drive, crashing the right lane. It's got traffic stopped from Euclid Avenue, and it's probably delaying things about 40 minutes for you. Another SIG alert, this one in Carson on the 405 northbound between Avalon Boulevard and the 110. All lanes closed with a fatality crash. That is producing quite a delay. It's got traffic stopped from Spring Street. Also Newbury Park, 101 northbound 4 Windy Drive, 3 right lanes blocked.
Hey, if you're thinking of getting the latest iPhone, you need to stop and check out the amazing wireless offer from Boost Infinite. For more, just pick up your phone and dial pound 250 and say Boost Infinite. That's pound 250 and Boost Infinite. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text message from this station.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Philadelphia 76ers are expecting James Harden to show up at training camp sometime today. Harden skipped media day on Monday and the first day of training camp on Tuesday. Harden is still trying to get the Sixers to trade him to the Clippers. The two teams have not had any significant talks regarding the 7-time All-Star, which means Harden may have to suck it up and stay with the Sixers. The Sixers can fine him for each day he fails to report. Harden will make $32.9 million this season. As much as Harden wants out of Philadelphia, he doesn't want to lose his money. The NBA has already hit him for $100,000 for missing media day. The Dodgers might know today who they'll play in the playoffs. If Arizona beats Milwaukee today, the Dodgers and Arizona will start their best-of-5 series on Saturday here in L.A. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com, and I sell custom blinds designed for do-it-yourselfers. Unlike stock blinds offered at big box retailers, Blindster blinds are custom made for your windows and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend. See reality at undo.org.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer.
Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Indeed, we thank Tracy Reese for that amazing conversation. As I said, she's doing such an amazing job as a pretty astounding. I'm trying to find the right word there. An astounding bit of work she's doing in Detroit. Of course, her fashion designs are all that and then some. But I thank Tracy for that conversation, and I appreciated it immensely. Pleased to be joined now, as promised, by Kat Calvin, who is a lawyer, activist, and social entrepreneur who has a new book out that I find fascinating. It's called American Identity in Crisis, Notes from an Accidental Activist. And I'm pleased to have Kat Calvin join us live now in studio. Kat, how are you today?
I am so excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you for these minutes that we do have. I love the subtitle, Notes from an Accidental Activist. It leads to the obvious question, how does one become an accidental activist?
I'm surprised because when we put that subtitle, I didn't realize how many people were going to really be drawn to it. It's really because I accidentally tripped into the ID issue. I've always been an activist. I come from a long line of activists. But when I started this whole journey, I was thinking about voter ID and voter ID laws because, like most of us, that was the only context I really had for any sort of ID issues in this country. And it took about 5 seconds after starting the org to realize, oh my God, there are 26 million American adults who don't have ID. And voting is just one tiny part of how that actually impacts people. People aren't getting jobs, healthcare, social services, all these other things. And I'm sort of without even trying, IDs became my life, and I really started to very passionately pursue this endeavor of trying to secure IDs for everyone, and it just sort of happened. It really was an accident.
Tell me more about the ID issue as you refer to it, the ID issue.
Yeah, so we have 11% of adults in this country, 26 million adults, who don't have government-issued photo ID. So, the little card that we think all of us have that you need for everything. If you want a job, if you want health care, if you want food from a lot of food shelters or beds in our food banks or beds in shelters, if you want any, WIC or SNAP, if you want anything in this country, you need an ID. But we have 11% of adults who don't have one, and they're really hard to get, which, any of us who've been to the DMV, which unfortunately is most of us, I'm there almost every day because I've made some terrible life choices. It's hard. You need a whole stack of documents. You need money. You need transportation. More than 10 million Americans live more than 10 miles from a DMV. And so we end up with all of these folks who can't get a birth certificate. If you go to Vital Records and you ask for a birth certificate, they'll ask for your ID. But if you want ID, you need a birth certificate, right? And more than 15 to 18 million Americans don't have access to their birth certificates or their citizenship records, right? And so then you have people who need that. You need your Social Security card in most states, which you also need an ID to get. You need records of proof of residency, which if you are unhoused, or if you're a senior or very young and living with people and your name isn't on any bills or whatever, it's hard to get. You have all of these different pieces of paper that you need in order to get this ID, along with a lot of money and transportation. And so we have a huge percentage of our country who doesn't have that.
That seems like an astounding number of fellow citizens who have no ID.
Yeah. It's honestly shocking. And when I started, actually, it was 21 million. And then this really incredible new study came out updating the numbers in November, and it's gone up 5 million since I started this org to 26. It is, it's a huge percentage, but I think we think it's so big because we actually forget how many people in this country are living in abject poverty, right? How many people in this country have been completely forgotten. And really, when I think about it, it's incredible to me that 89% of Americans actually have the privilege to have those documents and have the money and have the ability to get these IDs.
What's driving the increase? And I'm not naive in asking that, but you just mentioned when you start, since the time you started, it's gone up 5 million. What's driving that increase?
Well, there's an increase in homelessness in this country, right? And I think I suspect that next year we're going to see a huge increase because of all the things that are happening this fall. But there's a huge increase in homelessness. There's a huge increase in poverty in general. And if you don't have the money to spend on $30 on a birth certificate, $40 on an ID, etc. There's also, with young people, one thing, and I have a whole chapter in my book about the youth, because one thing that we don't realize is that young people are getting driver's licenses at a much lower rate than they were, when I was a kid, when you were a kid. But then they're also not realizing they still need to go to the DMV and get an ID. And so, we have a lot of schools that aren't helping provide, et cetera. And so we have this group of young people that are really significantly growing that aren't leaving school with the ID they need. So there's just a huge population. We have, so many seniors declining into poverty right now, ending up unhoused. And we have a large percentage of the folks we work with are seniors. Also, we have an ever increasing number of people who are incarcerated. And formerly incarcerated folks, they take your ID when you go in. They don't give you a new one when you get out.
What are the consequences, or put another way, what are the difficulties of trying to navigate life in this country without an ID?
So I'll tell you, one of the most common things that people say to us when they get their ID is, I'm a person again. Because you're just not without one, right? I had a client earlier this year. He's a veteran. He was living in his van in the VA parking lot here in LA because he didn't have an ID or a driver's license. So he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get into a shelter. He couldn't, move forward with his life. He couldn't drive his van. I helped him get his ID. And then I drove him around and I helped him get a phone and let him send, he couldn't replace his bank card without an ID, let him send that to my house. Within a week, he had 2 jobs. Right? Like, he wanted to work. And that's what it is that without an ID, you can't move your life forward. You cannot escape homelessness. If you get a Section 8 voucher, but you don't have ID, you can't get that apartment, right? We have now all of these people. I was just speaking to an attorney who has been working with folks in Maui who barely escaped their homes with their lives. Didn't get any of their documents. But you know what you need in order to get FEMA support? You need an ID, right? Yeah. If you want to go to school, if you want Medi-Cal, if you want SNAP, if you want WIC, if you want anything, you have to have an ID. So you cannot escape homelessness or poverty without one, and it is very difficult to get. And, we work with everyone from the mayor's office to LASA to every homeless services organization in LA and in 21 states, and we are either the only people who get IDs or we are training and providing people with the means to do it because no one's helping with it.
In an era, in a moment in American history where the government seems to want to know everything about us, why then is it so difficult to get an ID? One would think that the government would be giving these things away. They want to track everybody anyway. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. And, we're the only country that has this problem. This is only an American issue. It isn't because they aren't tracking us or don't want a better way to track us. It's because in America, we believe you have to earn the right to live. And so we don't ever provide anything for free that would help you be able to survive, right? That's why we don't have universal health care.
Yeah, hold on for a second. There's something wrong with that frame. And
everything's wrong with
you're right. But there's something wrong with that frame in the richest nation in the history of the world.
Right. Because we are a nation that has always bought into the fallacy that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And
whether you have boots or not.
Right. Yeah. And everyone, I call it Clarence Thomas syndrome, right? Everybody who actually had all the support and help that they could possibly have to make it to a place where they could make change for anybody, then pulls up the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And we just really functionally, this is why we're completely okay as a country with having millions and millions of children starving to death in the wealthiest country in the world. Because, well, too bad, your parents don't make enough money for you to have food and health insurance. Too bad, right? Like, we just are not a country that believes that there is a fundamental right to anything, particularly food, shelter, health, the things that every other country in the world thinks, you exist, so you should have this.
I'm glad she became an accidental activist. Aren't you? Just so glad she became an accidental activist. If she'd done it on purpose, I don't know what I would expect in this conversation. Her name is Kat Calvin. American Identity in Crisis. Notes from an Accidental Activist is her text. We'll talk more about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage, and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance.
plus personal equipment.
Meal programs,
a gym membership,
And so much more.
For more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community.
it's a plus.
It's a plus
for all of us.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Kat Calvin is our guest. Her book is called American Identity in Crisis, Notes from an Accidental Activist. And we've been talking about ID issues. And this is really sort of arresting the data that she's sharing with us about how many millions of Americans don't have IDs and all the difficulty that they have to encounter, of course, trying to navigate life without an ID in this country. You were saying to me during the break, sometimes the best parts of the show are in the break. I try to not do that so I don't have to reprise it on the air, but here we go. You were telling me that after 9/11, the rules changed to make these IDs harder to get. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so when 9/11 happened, the 19 terrorists had something like 36 IDs that they had gotten, essentially legally state IDs. And that's how they, were able to rent cars and sort of do a lot of things that led to the attacks. And so post 9/11, that's where the real ID comes from, is the 9/11 Commission was like, all right, we've got to make these more secure. But obviously it's been, 23 years, and we still don't actually have that implemented. DMVs in every state in the district were not going to wait. And so overnight, they changed a lot of the rules. And I think one thing that people don't realize is that DMV rules about sort of what documents you need, et cetera, for most states, it's not statutory. It's literally just like a person, whether it's the head of the Department of Transportation or in D.C., it's literally just Muriel Bowser. Like, there's just a person or a committee that can decide. And so they just overnight, without telling anybody, changed the rules. And so that's why for a lot of us, we don't remember this being as hard when we first got our IDs or driver's licenses, because it wasn't. It's a new thing. And so they not only did they significantly change the number of documents you need. You used to be able to, if you had an Arizona ID and then you moved to California, you could just take that ID and get a California ID, but not now. Now you have to have every single document, all originally. And so what that did was it significantly cut out this huge population of folks who maybe had IDs before or who now are young, who never had access to all of those documents. We work with a lot of seniors who never had birth certificates because either they were born in rural areas or they were Black, born in a Jim Crow town, and now we're trying to get them IDs, but it is very difficult. We've got a 96-year-old gentleman who was born in rural Texas, and we need to get him an ID, and you can get a thing that sort of from the state says you never got a birth certificate. But they want, a statement from the original doctor who would be 500 years old at this point, right? They want a school record. The school's been torn down, right? They want a church record. The church has been torn down. There's nothing. And so we can't get him a birth certificate. And so what happened was we did what America always does, which is that we act in defense so aggressively that we don't think about the people that we'll be impacting, right? So this wasn't done on purpose to impact people. It's just that we didn't think about the most vulnerable people when we made these rule changes.
It's always amazing to me how when we think we're solving problems, we end up creating additional problems.
Yep.
It is the American
Every
way.
time.
I digress.
We're very good at that.
We are very good at it. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Kat Calvin talking about her new book, American Identity in Crisis, Notes from an Accidental Activist, we're in election season, and Republicans certainly don't want most of us to have IDs when we go vote, and so I'm curious about the intersection, the nexus between IDs and voting. We'll talk about that with Kat Calvin when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
So, Cat Calvin, we are in the midst, whether we like it or not, of a presidential election season, and not just presidential election, but an American election season. And I wish these things could be more condensed. I hate this 2-year process of running for the White House. Other countries do it in a matter of weeks. Yeah. We do it over a 2-year span, which drives me insane. But a lot to talk about on talk radio, at least. But we're in this season, and we're talking, and your work is about ID issues. What's the nexus, as you see it, between IDs in this country and voting?
Well, the whole voter ID issue started because Republicans saw what happened with the ID crisis before anybody else, and realized that they could take advantage. And so what we saw after Shelby County v. Holder, the landmark Supreme Court case in 2013, was that states started to expand voter ID laws exponentially. So in 2013, before that case, we had about 4 states that had voter ID laws. By the 2016 election, we had 21, and now we have 36. So it hit like a wave. And, part of why I'm writing this book, why I'm really passionate about this, is that because no one knew that there was this huge problem with IDs, it sounded logical to everybody, right? It sounded logical to Dems. Last year, where we had, or the year before, we had Dems just falling all over themselves to agree with Joe Manchin that we should have IDs, voter ID laws in all 50 states, right? Because no one knows or really cares about this group of people. And Republicans, who are just so incredibly strategic, and I wish we were more like them, they immediately saw an issue and realized, like, oh, there's this group of people no one's going to pay attention to. They have the tendency to vote Democratic, but not all, but they were willing to toss out their group of folks who didn't have IDs in order to hit the larger target. And they're like, oh, if we create these voter ID laws, it cuts out this huge percentage of voters, mostly Black and brown, mostly low income. And we've seen, with the numbers, what an impact it's had. So if you look in 2016 at Wisconsin, for instance, the margin of victory between Hillary and Trump was something like 14,000 votes. There are 225,000 registered voters in Wisconsin who don't have ID. And we see those numbers comparatively in every single state. So it's a huge group of people who cannot vote because they don't have IDs.
You mentioned Black and brown and low income. Give me some sense of how, I'm going to assume, how, because I've been Black my whole life and I've done this for 30-some years. I'm going to assume, speaking of Black and brown and low income, that this voter ID issue hits those constituencies disproportionately.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, when we look at socioeconomic status in this country and race, they are obviously intertwined because that's the entire way that this country was built. And so if I always tell people, when you think about who doesn't have IDs, just remember you can't get a job without ID. So you're looking at folks who are returning citizens, folks who are unhoused, folks who are domestic violence survivors, former foster youth, etc. And unfortunately, Black and brown people, particularly Black people, tend to make up larger numbers of those populations.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work, as we say around here. You're doing righteous work, and I'm glad that you are doing it. I was saying to Kat earlier in the conversation that during one of the breaks, in fact, her subtitle is Notes from an Accidental Activist. And I put it another way. You're not just an accidental activist. You assigned yourself. That's my way of putting it. You assigned yourself. And I say to Black people all the time, there are all kinds of challenges that our people face every day. And what you have to do is to assign yourself. You see the problem, assign yourself to do something about it. That's what you did. So you call it accidental activist. I call it assigning yourself. Either way, I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm glad you wrote the book. Her name is Kat Calvin. That's Kat with a K. American Identity in Crisis, Notes from an Accidental Activist. A powerful read that I highly recommend. Kat, thanks for the work that you're doing, and thanks for coming in to see us.
Thank you so much.
My great honor. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 San